do you do? And you're welcome today for a brief discussion of British etiquette. Yes, we have a lovely class here in Bicester for those who do not know the whys and wherefores of how to behave in polite society, like we have here in Bicester or Cruton. There you go. I will now turn it over to our best pupil, Sally Wimberley, who did very well in the class the other day, I must say. I got good reports on Sally. So, pip pip, cheerio, and off to the races. Ta-ta! Okay. Yep, I went to how to behave yourself in English class so you don't offend everybody and start an international incident. And I thought I would just share a few things with you that were just so wonderful to know. No, seriously, it was a great class. Um, there was a lot about the class structure in England and how that still, even though it is muddled and blurred as it should be in a modern world, there are still class structures set in place that people at the top, and a lot of it I could relate to the United States, except there's nothing that keeps Joe Blow from becoming a millionaire. He'll still be Joe Blow, but he'll be a millionaire. Here, the upper class really have, well, the very upper uppers, the royals. And then there are people who might have some royal connection. There'll be a lady or a lord or whatever, but they won't be the royal family. And then there's landowners. It goes back in ancient history. Anyway, we learned a lot about that. But education, of course, available to everyone. Of course, there's those who can afford private. They seem to get a little upper lead, but whatever. That was of no real use to me, except I understood a little bit more how the culture works. But some of the things that jumped out at me that I knew I needed to make sure I didn't do incorrectly. Oh, also, it's your dress, the dress code, and where you go to if you go to a formal event. And it started off with white tie and tails, and then it went to, you know, black tie and tails, and then it went to two or three other variations with the top hat and this and that, and what women had to wear. And I'm not getting invited to any of those things or any state dinner, so I don't have to worry terribly about the 15 forks and spoons and knives, what they showed me a picture of. So that part all aside, which was fascinating, and I enjoyed it very much. The things like they take their fork and put it downward, and then they cut their food. They don't take their fork and spike something and stick it in their mouth. It's very much a cut, put the knife down, take this fork and put it in your mouth, prongs down, basically. Just so you know, that's polite British manners to eat your food. Don't use your fingers. Don't push your food on the fork with your finger. Oh, but in many things I just knew were common sense and good manners, the way people used to be raised. Without even thinking about it, I think I would know how to, you don't sit down at a meal and you eat before the hostess is eating or everyone else has been served and everyone starts to eat. That kind of stuff. But don't blow your nose on your napkin. That was another one. Oh, and it's not a napkin, it's a serviette. And the reason they don't say napkin is more of a term that you would hear in a less class worthy conversation. So I shouldn't say napkin, I should say serviette. So there you go, even though it sounds French to me. All the usual stuff. But I won't even read you the things like don't pick food out of your teeth with your fingernail. But I hope that we know better than that, especially if you're with people you don't know. At home, maybe with Steve, it would be different. Okay, no elbows on the table. You can rest this part of your arm on the table. That's it. But one of the things I did learn, which I'm sure are good manners that I just was never introduced to, is that when we eat bread out at a table, let's say there's a thing of rolls, you're supposed to take your roll, put it on your plate, and break off a tiny piece of that roll and butter that little tiny mouthful bite, and then that goes in your mouth. You're not supposed to slit the roll with your knife, open it up, put the butter in there, slap it down, put it on your plate, pick it up, and take a bite out of it. So there, did you know that? I will not be doing that, and I will be instructing Steve not to. Of course, I'm not eating that much bread. The other things I thought were interesting. Shoot, what was the other thing? Hold on, let me look. Okay, here I am. I had to go back and look at my notes to remember the next part. Oh, Well, you know we're a bunch of arrogant Americans, but besides the fact that we shouldn't be boasting about what we make, how big our house is, what, and if you go visit an English person, it's fun. Here's an interesting thing. They want to know why we draw our blinds all the time because all the Americans keep their blinds shut, their curtains drawn. There's something about us, and yet we're very open and want people in our face. And if you came into your house, you'd want to give them the tour, but we live with our blinds shut. The British are opposite. All their windows are wide open, their blinds are open, their windows are open. They don't have screens for bugs. Um, Even if you're on a narrow street and you've got old like row houses, their windows are going to be open. There are going to be no curtains hiding their privacy. But do not expect a Brit to invite you in to show you their house. They will not do that. They will let you into the areas. They will have, that's probably why there are doors on every room in an English house. Literally, there'll be a door to the kitchen and a door to the living room and a door to the dining room, and they're shut. They only escort you into the space they choose for you to see, and that is it. You ain't getting the tour, so just kiss it goodbye. Okay, but that's the British way. They're very private, and yet their windows are wide open. Um, oh, here's a good one. Queuing. Queuing is lining up for things. They're very big on queuing. I think it's part written into their DNA code or something. Um, and what they do is, she said, this is what you do. You do not cut. You do not cut in line. Let's say, for example, you've all gone into the pub and there's a horde of people at the bar. That bartender will have taken note. And so you're not like in a real line, but you're kind of like in a spread out group around the pub, around the bar, waiting to place your order. You do not jump in. That bartender or barmaid will have known and taken mental stock of who came in when, and they will go to you when it is your turn. They won't, they might even say who's next, but I doubt it, she said, because that's their job. So don't cut or you're in big trouble. No, I don't care where you are in the line in England, don't cut. So I will be very careful about that too. Um, oh, she said when you bump into someone in a store or you're scooting by, whatever, and I got scared because I was afraid I'd said the wrong thing. She said you just say sorry. There's sorry, 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 sorry all over England. That's what they use, the word sorry. And I thought, oh God, I spent my whole life saying I was sorry for every time when something, a leaf fell off the tree. Oh, sorry. Whatever it was, I say I'm sorry. So that must be my English DNA coming out. But she said, um, you, I said, well, what happens if I say something like, excuse me or pardon me? She said, never, ever, ever say. She said, pardon me is, and it says right here, the expression pardon me would be considered by the upper classes to be rather common. When I was growing up, I was told that the correct thing to do as this happens is to carry on. Oh, well, let me tell you why you don't say pardon me. If you say pardon me, pardon me, pardon me, pardon me, it's because you farted. It's because you passed gas or you burped and you're supposed to say pardon me. That's the only time. So if you say pardon me when you bumped into somebody in the store, they're going to think you passed gas or burped. The other the word she does, I said, well, what about excuse me? She says, no, excuse me is used if you're trying to get someone's attention, like, excuse me. See, but I would use them interchangeably because I'm a rather wordy person. So sorry, pardon me, excuse me, I would use interchangeably whenever whatever came up out of my mouth. And my problem, almost anything comes out of my mouth. So I wanted to share that one with you too. Now, I want to tell you an interesting story. Oh, and then she says, don't talk politics. Don't give your opinion on stuff that you know nothing about. You don't know about the relations between Ireland and England. You don't know about Scottish nationalist movement. You don't want to say, yay, I think they should have freedom. We have freedom. Keep your mouth shut, she said. So anyway, whatever. And all the usual, don't burp, don't spit. I mean, please, please. We didn't get into any curtsying or bowing and scraping because quite honestly, I don't know that I'm going to meet anybody. I mean, I try to be polite and treat all people with dignity, regardless of their station in life. Anyway, here's an interesting little thing about this and this. You all know this is peace. And if you've seen pictures of Winston Churchill, this was the V for victory during World War II. This was a symbol he either created or utilized, but anyway, V for victory. Okay. This, which you'll see some mock-ups of Winston Churchill with his hand like this is the you know what, take one finger down and you know what it's saying. Well, let me tell you about the origin of this. Back in the day, in the ancient day, when the French and the English were fighting once again, and they had archers, the Brits were very good, and they beat the French apparently on multiple occasions, or at some certain scenario where um, the whole thing is that if they caught you, they cut your fingers off here because then you couldn't do the bow, right? So this is like showing the enemy that you've got both your fingers and I still can do you dirty, man. So it's like, so that's where that comes from, guys. Did you know that? That's at least you're showing one of your fingers. It goes back to the archery thing. Isn't that fascinating? Don't you just love all the information I'm giving you? I can tell you that there is probably some other really fun little things like never, ever, ever wear just a little fascinator, which is those little tiny hat things that became popular from the royal wedding, the last royal wedding. Those are not appropriate for certain functions. You must wear a full hat and da-da-da-da. So just so you know, don't pull out your fascinator if you're coming over here to see me, because we might have to wear a hat instead. And then that's pretty much it. I mean, it's just there's information here about leaving tips and not leaving tips, but I haven't even read that and we didn't go over it. So that's it for my etiquette class today. I hope you all learned something. Her Majesty says, "Thank you for stopping by. And do practice and watch your P's and Q's. Do you know the origin of the phrase P's and Q's? Mind your P's and Q's? Well, I'll tell you. It's mind your pints and quarts. That's pub lingo to you Americans. Pints and quarts. That's all. I don't even know why they say pints and quarts. I mean, it's probably like watch how many you had to drink or watch that somebody's not picking up the wrong glass. I'll find that out and let you know the next time. Mind your P's and Q's, everybody. See you soon. Bye-bye.